This year, I'm expecting the Ballon d'Or to go to Lionel Messi for the final time. There is a bit of a debate around it this season, but considering that Messi won the World Cup and, he's completed football, I don't have many complaints about him getting the Ballon d'Or. Especially since this is it for Messi. The GOAT has already moved on to Miami, well, he'll see out his career there, and hopefully Argentina at the end. And that's it. He's moving on. He's finally giving up the crown that he's held since, 2009. And today, I want to talk about who will be the world's next best player. And this isn't about who will win the next Ballon d'Or. I could easily see that being Harry Kane or Kevin De Bruyne should they have a great club season and Euro run. But that would be more like Luka Modric or Robert Lewandowski winning the Ballon d'Or. I'm not talking about one great individual season, a great run in a tournament. This is about grabbing the crown and who will become the real next best player. And I see three contenders for that spot right now. Erling Haaland, Kylian Mbappé, and Jude Bellingham. Erling Haaland is Messi's main competition for the Ballon d'Or this season, and it's easy to see why. He was a huge part of Man City's treble-winning team last year, and he's the best goal scorer in the world. He broke so many Premier League records last year, and he's picked off right where he's left off this season with 8 goals in 8 games in the Premier League. His movement and threat is such a huge part of how Man City plays, even when he doesn't touch the ball. However, there are games where he's not touching the ball much, and when he is on the ball, when he is in possession, he's not great for a top-level player. Kylian Mbappé led Ligue 1 goals last season, he's doing the same this season. He's such a massive threat with his pace, goal-scoring, and creativity. Such an amazing player. He was the second best player at the World Cup, behind only Lionel Messi. However, despite all of his goals and all of his talents, he is still only playing in France at the moment. He's probably going to have to leave PSG if he wants to reach the next level, at least in terms of public opinion. And you could make a case that he wasn't even the best player on his team last season, though you could make the same argument about Erling Haaland. Jude Bellingham has taken La Liga by storm this season. 8 goals in 8 games. He's the league's top goal scorer, and he's doing things at Real Madrid you haven't seen since Cristiano Ronaldo. He's also the top player in terms of assists for this group. However, I should say that last season with Borussia Dortmund, he only had 8 goals, which is the same that he's got this season already. Now, he is playing in a more advanced role this season, but I think it remains to be seen if Bellingham is just in good form, or if this new position getting him closer to goal is making him a better player, making him a better goal scorer. And he is still doing some good midfield work. He probably has the most defensive duties out of these 3 players on this list. But I will say that defensive work won't play too much of a role in terms of who we consider the world's best. I mean, even in their athletic primes, Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo weren't exactly tracking back that much. However, I will go even further beyond that, and I say that to be considered the world's top player, I think you have to be amongst the goals. Now, I'll be the first to sing the praises of amazing guys in possession, like Xavi, Iniesta, Pirlo, and Paul Scholes. But to be considered that next level, a player who's really going to take over games, I think you really need that goal threat that a player provides. So I think Jude Bellingham going further up the field is going to be crucial in terms of how we view them. However, that's not to say that you don't want complete players. I think what makes Messi special, or at least one of the things that makes Messi special, is how many facets of the game he is elite in. He was at one time the world's best goal scorer. What was it, 91 goals in 2012? That is insane. He's also a special dribbler, being able to keep the ball close to him and embarrass defenders. In his prime, athletically he was great, his pace and agility was superb, and his technical ability is elite. It's probably up there with the best in the world. I mean, when Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets were in the midfield, Messi was combining with them, keeping up with them, outpacing them at some times, creating those triangles that helped the Barcelona team excel. I always imagined that late in his career he'd drop into a deep-lying playmaker similar to the likes of Pirlo, but he's just still so good offensively that you don't want to take him away from the goal. Messi combined all of those attributes into one player. Going back to the players I was talking about competing for that spot of the world's best player, Erling Haaland is a bit of an outlier in this category. He is an amazing goal scorer, probably the world's best. He's a superb athlete. But that's kind of it. He's a great striker, great number 9, but that's kind of all he does well. And in that Man City team, when he gets on the ball, he can be a bit of a weak link at times. He can really slow down possession with how little he does. He doesn't have the creativity that a lot of the other world's best players do. He is brilliant at what he does well, but that's a bit of a narrow field. Then there's Kylian Mbappé, who's really added creativity to his game. He can impact matches beyond just goals. Now, he is still an amazing goal scorer and probably the best athlete in world football, but he's more than that. His technical ability, his passing, his creativity, his dribbling, it's all come such a long way. Now, I don't think he's like Messi, where you can drop him into the best midfield in the world and he'd elevate it, if anything, but it's still good. Now, he doesn't do much work off the ball, however, neither did Messi, but I think that Mbappe's come a long way, and he's really a complete attacker. Then there's Jude Bellingham, and I think Bellingham has been doing everything that Messi has done for a team this season for Real Madrid. Now, it isn't at the level that Messi has, obviously, but he's been amongst the goals. He's been a great goal scorer for Real Madrid this season. His technical ability is there. The creativity really shines through. He's a great athlete, and he offers defensive work rate that none of the others, including Messi, has. Now, I don't value it too much in terms of being the world's best player, but it's not something you can ignore. And if Bellingham is able to keep this up and continue to improve, he is the youngest player amongst these guys, the sky's the limit. So for a quick summary of the contenders, Erling Haaland is an amazing goal scorer, the world's best, but that's kind of it. In fact, when I look at people talk about Man City, there's a bit of a perception that they would be better without Haaland. I mean, I guess it's just a coincidence that they won the Champions League with him and he broke all these goal-scoring records. Anybody could have done that. But there is a little bit of truth in that. He is weaker on the ball than a lot of really good players, and he does need to be brought into the game by other elite players such as Kevin De Bruyne. But when he is brought into the game, he's a force unlike any other. Then there's Kylian Mbappé, who's operating on such a high level, but he may be the most polarizing player that I'm going to be talking about. Now, this has happened for a lot of players at PSG, and to be honest, I think Mbappé would be dealing with this criticism no matter what, and unfortunately, it's something that Jude Bellingham's probably going to be dealing with pretty soon. But I do think that he needs to leave PSG. There's not much more he can do in France, and if he doesn't win a Champions League title with them, it might affect his legacy. However, I think it's impossible to deny his talent, and after his performance at the World Cup, it seems like he's ready to try to grab that crown. Lastly, Jude Bellingham, who's been operating at such a high level for the most prestigious team in the world this season. But the question is, can he sustain this level? Because before joining Real Madrid, Jude Bellingham had never outperformed his expected goals. However, this season, he's doubling it. The question is this just Jude Bellingham getting better, him being surrounded by world-class players and moving into a new position? Or is it an anomaly that will reset to normal soon? Time will tell. So who do I think will end up becoming the best player in the world and grabbing that crown? Oh, I really don't know. There are 3 great players that I just talked about. But right now, I think I'm leaning towards Jude Bellingham. And that is tough to say because he's been operating at this high level for such a short period of time, and it's a very big if that he'll be able to keep up his form. I mean, by the end of the season, we could just be looking at Vinicius as Real Madrid's best player, and it was pretty harsh of me to not mention Vinicius at all to this point. But I think for Bellingham, something that I noticed this year was there was a game of the Champions League where Real Madrid were playing Union Berlin, and they were drawing 0-0, and it looked like it was just going to end up as a draw. And the commentator said that this is the type of game that a star player like a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Karim Benzema would go out and will a win for the team. And then Jude Bellingham scored. And that's not to say that Mbappé or Haaland can't grab the crown. I think they actually have an easier path than Jude Bellingham. I mean, if Mbappé is able to lead PSG to a Champions League title and or lead France to a Euro with a really good performance this year, I think that's kind of it. I think he's viewed as the world best at that point. And if Erling Haaland is able to make technical improvements, which is not impossible given how young he is and that he's working with Pep Guardiola, it's over. But I think something that makes Jude Bellingham special is just how complete of a player that he is. And I know I mentioned before that defensive work doesn't mean too much, but I just want to do a little thought exercise real quick. So I think that if you could clone all the players like 10 times, get a full team of them, you'd probably still only want one Mbappe on the field. He doesn't do too much off-the-ball work. I think you could only accommodate one of him. Same with Haaland. I mean, if you're a team that's playing like a more counterattacking, you don't have the ball, you could probably have two of them up top in a 4-2-2, 4-4-2. But on a good team, you'd probably want only one Erling Haaland. With Jude Bellingham, you could have like 7 of him. You'd have a on-the-ball center back, a right back, probably the whole midfield, one winger, the striker. Like, he could play just about every position very well. I mean, even somebody like Messi and Ronaldo in their prime, you'd probably only want like Ronaldo on a wing and up top. Messi, you could probably have one, maybe two of him in the midfield, depending on how good of a defensive midfielder you have. And then up top, like 2 or 3 max. But Jude Bellingham, you'd have like 7 of him on the field and still be an amazing team. Now, I don't think that's to say that that makes Messi or Ronaldo a worse player, and a good manager will build around one really special player. That's how Argentina won the World Cup. But it's just interesting how amazing that Bellingham is. And I think why I want to talk about this is, even though I think it's probably just as likely, or it's at least very close, that Mbappe, Haaland, they grab that crown, they become the world's best player, or maybe that there just isn't a complete dominant guy like Messi, or maybe it's like the time from like 2014 to 2017 where Ronaldo was really making it a great race, and it was just, okay, we've got 2 elite, 2 special players. But I think that Jude Bellingham's rise has been so fun to watch this season, and I really want to talk about it. I think we're observing greatness right before our eyes, and it's something that we have to be taking note of. And yeah, that's all I got to talk about. Subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'll see you.